Welcome to Craig's Gun Channel. As this is the 4th of July, I thought a brief refresher in American history would be in order. The land that became America was originally colonized by citizens of many different countries, principally England. Whether it was to try to escape English rule, the control of the Church of England, or simply looking for excitement and the possibilities that came from colonizing a new land, people came to this country to forge a new life. Over time, England began plundering the wealth of the American colonies by taxing more and more goods. At the same time, they did not allow for the colonies to have a voice within the English Parliament, which is what coined the phrase taxation without representation. As the colonists' resentment continued to build, they began to speak out more and more, resulting in charges of sedition and even treason, leading to arrests and judgments against them. England began to add trade restrictions against the colonies in addition to the ever-increasing taxes, and to add insult to injury, they forced the citizens to house and support the growing contingent of the British Army that was there to keep the colonies under subjugation. It was common for the British to seize property for the benefit of the army, or even for the benefit of individual British officers. Despite all of this, the colonists generally continued to quietly live their lives within the system. However, in 1775, the British attempted to disarm the colonists by seizing arms and powder at Lexington and Concord. The colonists had finally had enough. They rallied the local militia to defend their property, and when the Redcoats arrived to seize the arms, the colonists refused to stand down. During the standoff, shots were fired, and what had been up to then a Cold War turned hot. This was the match that ignited what would become the American Revolution. Ralph Waldo Emerson penned the phrase, "the shot heard around the world," to describe these battles of Lexington and Concord, as the consequences of Britain attempting to disarm America forever shaped the world that followed. The battles of the Revolutionary War continued into 1783, at which time America finally achieved independence from England. Following the war, the colonists worked to devise a new centralized government, resulting in the signing of the Constitution in 1787. However, while the newly created document enumerated the structure of the government, it did not clearly address many of the issues relating to individual liberties. The original framers of the Constitution felt that common sense would suffice. However, many delegates refused to sign unless there was an agreement to add several amendments specifying certain specific individual liberties. Consequently, the Bill of Rights, or the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, were added 3 years later in 1791. The intent of these amendments was to clearly denote the existence of several individual freedoms that had been flouted by the British during the English rule of the colonies. During that time, public speech that was contrary to English rule would often be punished or silenced with charges of treason or sedition. It became unlawful to publish opinions that openly opposed the king, or even to demand that England address concerns brought forth by the colonies. The British Army would search or seize property at will, make charges or accusations to suit their agenda regardless of evidence, and frequently arrest people for the same crime over and over again, even after it was found that no evidence supported the charges. It was not uncommon for them to arrest and hold someone for an indefinite period of time with no trial date set. For all of these things and more, the Bill of Rights was created. Most people are familiar with the big ones, such as the freedom of religion or freedom of the press. However, I feel it's worth reading through all 10 of them. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Amendment 3. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have assistance of counsel for his defense. Amendment 7. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Amendment 8. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Perhaps none of these amendments has caused more debate since its creation than the second. While many will insist that it means a collective right meant to apply to the state or government, they are wrong. The Bill of Rights is a collection of individual liberties. Again, it reads, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." It can be read another way that may help in its understanding. To maintain the security of a free state, a well-regulated militia is needed. Therefore, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. To further break this down, the militia, at the time of its writing, meant all free and able-bodied men, and well-regulated meant that the equipment that they used, which they provided themselves, be up to date and in good repair. So a well-regulated militia was all able-bodied men with their supplies and weapons maintained and in good working order. The writers of the Constitution knew what an army was, and they knew what a militia was. They knew that for a militia to be an effective fighting force, they needed to have current, up-to-date firearms. Essentially, they needed to be able to have the same weapons of war that a government army may have. Therefore, they wrote that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This essentially means that any law that limits the citizen's ability to acquire, own, or use any firearm is unconstitutional. The writers of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights knew what they were doing. They created a government with many checks and balances. However, they knew that the final check on government is the people and their ability to resist, if need be, a government that has become tyrannical. After all, that was in fact what they had just done. That's why the first two amendments are in the order that they are. The First Amendment guarantees that the people are free to gather, discuss, and speak openly about their concerns. They're allowed to petition their government to address those concerns. And should the government ignore the will of the governed, to become out of control or tyrannical, the Second Amendment is there to allow them to do something about it. So for those who ask who needs a machine gun or a high-capacity magazine or whatever other sort of firearm that they deem not useful to hunt or target shoot with, the Second Amendment is not about hunting or target shooting. It is about maintaining the freedom of the people.